The final portion in the Torah is the portion of V'zois Habracha. This is the only portion in the entire Torah that is not read on a Shabbos. Every portion of the 53 Parshiot in the Torah are read on Shabbos, besides the portion of V'zois Habracha, outside of Israel. It is read on Simchat Torah, and Simchat Torah never falls out on a Shabbos. Which means that the Torah portion is so powerful, it doesn't need a Shabbos to strengthen it and to elevate it. It is a portion of V'zois Habracha, totally blessing. This is the blessing. It's such a powerful blessing that you can point with your finger and say, look, this is the blessing. V'zois Habracha. What do we read here? In verse number 4, we read a verse that is the first verse that we teach our children when they are able to speak. The Code of Jewish Law says, when a child begins to speak, what should you teach the child? Some American parents want the child to say, Mommy and Daddy, I love you. However, according to the Torah, the first thing you teach a child when he's able to speak is this verse. Torah Tziva, Lanu Moshe, Moirasha, Kehilas Yaakov. This is the first verse a child learns when they are able to speak. What does it mean? Torah, the Torah. Tziva Lanu Moshe, that Moses commanded us. Moirasha, this Torah is an inheritance. Kehilas Yaakov, to the children of Jacob, to every single Jew. In other words, if you are 1 day old and your father left you an inheritance of $1 billion, it's all yours. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be intelligent. You don't have to know even that you have it. It belongs to you. That is the meaning of an inheritance. Every single one of us, the day we were born into the Jewish people, we became billionaires. We received the whole Torah, the most precious and priceless treasure in the world. Every single one of us has a right to this inheritance, has a right to this treasure. This is the message that we teach a child the moment the child is able to speak. Now, this is read on Simchas Torah. What is Simchas Torah? Simchas Torah is the 8th day of Sukkot. On the other hand, Simchas Torah is a holiday on its own. What does that mean? On one hand, the Torah says you shall sit in the sukkah for 7 days. On the 8th day, no longer do you sit in the sukkah. So it's already a new holiday. But yet it's called Shemini Atzeres, the 8th day of the holiday. Our rabbis tell us that it has both components. On one hand, it's the 8th day of Sukkot. On the other hand, it's a holiday on its own. Now, on this holiday of its own, we read the portion of V'zois Habracha. We read the pasuk of Torah Tziva Lanu Moshe Merasha Kilas Yaakov. What is the connection between this pasuk and the holiday of Sukkot and the holiday of Simchas Torah? Furthermore, we read here in the verse, it says the Torah is Merasha Kilas Yaakov. It's an inheritance to the children of Jacob. Now Rashi tells us, what does this mean? Achas nua v'loi nazvena. Rashi says, we held on to it in the past, even during difficult times, challenging times, and v'loi nazvena, we will not abandon it. However, the Rebbe asks a question on this word of achas nuha. What does it mean we held on to it? How does this connect with the pasuk of Moirasha, that this is an inheritance? Why is Rashi adding to it by saying that we held on to it? And furthermore, I have a question to ask you. If Torah is an inheritance, then it means you have to receive it from your father. But let's say one's father was not Torah observant, or one's father was an ignoramus, or didn't believe in the Torah, and despised the Torah, and they never gave you the Torah. So how do you get it? If it's an inheritance, it has to be passed on generation to generation. Let's say there was a gap, a generation gap. Let's say there was a missing link in the chain. How do we have now a right to take the Torah? And the answer is found here in Rashi by the fact that Rashi uses the word achaznuha, because Rashi is hinting to us that there is a concept called sada achuza. The sada achuza is a field that was given to you as inheritance. The law in the Torah is, in the land of Israel, you cannot sell any land. You can only lease land. Because in the year of Jubilee, the land comes back to you. So you could sell it for 49 years. But the 50th year comes back to you. And this is really what Rashi is telling us here. That the Torah is like a Yerusha, it's an inheritance, but a unique inheritance, that for 50 years it could be out of your possession, it could belong to somebody else, but it comes back. So therefore it could miss a generation or two, but it's still an inheritance. You can never sell it, you can never get rid of it. It's always coming back home. That is the meaning of Meirasha. So every Jew has this Torah. If you want it, you grab it. It belongs to you. Now, why do we read this portion on Simchat Torah, and what's the connection to all of us? We have to understand a more fundamental question. On Simchat Torah, we dance with the Torah. That's a big thing. We dance with the Torah. We go into the streets, and according to the halacha, according to Jewish law, it says not only should you dance with the Torah in your own synagogue, but if you're traveling from your synagogue and going on the way home, and you pass by another 3-4 synagogues, go into each synagogue and dance with them also. That's what it says in the Code of Jewish law. So, we don't find this Yom Kippur every time, okay, fast now in every synagogue. It doesn't say that. It doesn't say Rosh Hashanah, I'll go hear the shofar in every synagogue. But when it comes to Simchat Torah, it says you should be so joyous today and don't stop dancing. And any synagogue that is still dancing, you go in there, you dance together with them. Why are we dancing with the Torah? It's our inheritance. But let me ask you a question. When did God give us the Torah? He gave us the Torah on the holiday of Shavuot, which is basically around the summertime. So if that is the case, why don't we have Simchas Torah then? We should be dancing with the Torah then on Shavuot. So on one hand you have cheesecake, on the other hand you have the Torah and you dance. That should be the holiday of Shavuos. Yet we don't dance with the Torah on Shavuos. We dance with the Torah on Simchas Torah. Why? And the answer is, Shavuos represents the first luchos, the first tablets. Simchat Torah, we are rejoicing with the second tablets. What does that mean? God gave us the first tablets on Shavuot. 40 days later, we made a golden calf. Moses came down, he broke the tablets. After that, we, the Jewish people, did tshuva. We repented for that mistake, for the golden calf. And God said, you know what? Salachti kidverecha. I will forgive you for your sin. I will give you a second set of tablets. Now Moshe had to actually hewn them out of his mine. He had a mine underneath his tent, a sapphire mine, and he brought the tablets before God, and God wrote the letters into the second tablets. When did Moses come down with the second tablets? Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, he came down with the second tablets. The tablets represent the marriage contract, the kedushin, the betrothal between God and the Jewish people. So first God wanted to separate the marriage. We sinned with the golden calf. We committed adultery, spiritual adultery. God says, I want out of the marriage. So Moses breaks the tablets and says, God, what are you talking about? There is no marriage over here. There's no ketubah. Show me where the marriage contract is. We have no marriage contract. Oh, God says, you're right. Then Then they figured out the whole story. It wasn't really the Jews that sinned, it was the Erev Rav, it was the mixed multitude. And God says, fine, we're going to now get remarried. So Moses now brings the second set of tablets, the ketubah, the marriage contract. And God now gives it to the Jewish people on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. I forgave you for the sin of the golden calf. Now we're going to move on with the marriage. So now that's official. We're engaged. We have to have a wedding. So it takes 4 days to prepare for the wedding. That's between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. And now the wedding takes place on Sukkot. For 7 days we have Sheva Brachos. And then finally on the last day is the ultimate joy. That's between God and the Jewish people. The first 7 days you have all the guests coming from all the other kings, from all the other countries are participating with the wedding. But when do we have real intimacy? When do we really get together one-on-one? That's Simchat Torah. So now we're dancing with the Torah that God gave us on Yom Kippur. That's why today Simchat Torah is a much more joyous than Shavuot. Because the Torah that we got on Shavuot was given to us by God, but we were not really receptacles. We did not understand the value of it, and it broke. Now we earned it. Now we did tshuva. Now we say, God, now we're ready. It's like marrying a girl who's 12 years old. The guy's a billionaire, he has a fancy car, a Rolex, but she doesn't understand the value of marriage. Then some things happen. She realizes, you know what, the guy's a good guy. I got to go back to him. Now she's 18, a little smarter, more mature, maybe 19. So we were young. We came out of Egypt. We were little kids. Okay, God married us. Very nice. He has a nice Rolex. We liked him. But we want to have fun, camp in the summer. Comes now Yom Kippur. We grew up a little bit. I said, okay, we want to remarry God. We made a mistake. We were young, naive, foolish. Hashem, forgive us. So that is Yom Kippur, and now we have a big wedding, a big Jewish wedding, and then on Simchat Torah we truly rejoice with the Torah. We thank Hashem for choosing us. We thank Hashem for allowing us to be His bride, and we now rejoice with the Torah. So this is why Simchat Torah is considered to be the most joyous day of the year. But till we got to Simchat Torah, we first go through Sukkot. We have 7 days of Sukkot. And then we come to Simchat Torah, that is the 8th day. So to really appreciate this, we got to go through the holidays. Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. What do these 3 holidays really mean? The Yalkut Shimoini says like this: even though all 3 holidays are festivals, are what we call Zaman Simchasenu, it's a time of rejoicing, but in truth, the word Simcha is not mentioned in the Torah pertaining to the holiday of Pesach. When you come to the holiday of Shavuot, you find the word Simcha mentioned once. When you come to the holiday of Sukkot, you find the word Simcha, joy, mentioned 3 times. Why? Even though all of them together are a time of Simcha, V'samachta b'chagecha, you shall rejoice in your holidays, but yet the word Simcha, joy, is mentioned 3 times by Sukkot and not even once by Pesach. So what happened? Pesach is the birth of the Jewish people. God took us out of Egypt. That was a time that He put within us the faith in God. Shavuos, we got the Torah. Sukkot is when we celebrate the Torah. These 3 holidays parallel 3 agricultural seasons. Pesach is called the Chodesh HaAviv, the time of spring. Shavuot is the time of the Chag HaKotzir, the time when you cut the harvest, and Sukkot is Chag HaOsif, when you bring in the harvest. Now, spring is a good time, the weather is great, but you cannot eat the fruit. You cannot eat the food. It begins to mature, begins to ripen, but I don't have any pleasure from it. There's no real simcha. I'm excited, things are growing, Baruch Hashem, it was a rainy season, It allowed all the crops to grow, but I cannot put the food in my mouth. Where's the beef? You understand? I cannot actually internalize it. Kam Shavuos, we're getting closer. We start cutting things from the field. Okay, that's already better. I'm able to hold on to the produce, to the grain, to the fruit. Okay, it's getting better. Comes along Sukkot, I bring it into the house, into the granaries. Now, I can have a piece, I can make a bracha, I can have an apple, I can have some challah, I can have some food, because I have all the grain. The time of ingathering, called Chag HaOsif. And the same is true spiritually. Pesach is spring. We were saved from the Egyptians, we now became a nation. At that time, we began to have faith in God. Look, God saved us, we believe in you, God. But what should we do? There's nothing to do yet. We're only a nation, we were not given a Torah yet. Comes along Shavuot, God gives us a Torah. But we haven't learned the Torah yet, we just got it. So we say, Naseh v'nishma. That's the time of cutting the harvest. Okay, so it gets a little more exciting. It's the first time the Torah says the word simcha, because now we have a Torah, and we acknowledge the Torah, we accept upon ourselves the Torah, we say, Naseh v'nishma, we will do, we will listen. But now we have to start learning it. So over the summer, we start learning the Torah. And we start internalizing it. We start understanding it. We start doing it. Now that we know what we got into, which is Sukkot time, Chag HaOsif, we gather in all the mitzvahs and all the Torah knowledge that we studied over the summer days. Now we have simcha. Now we have true joy. We can actually taste the Torah. It's palatable. And I can digest it. I can internalize it. Torah is considered to be lechem, is like bread, that I can actually feel sustenance and energy from the Torah. It's a time to rejoice. So this happens throughout the days of Sukkot, Zman HaOsif. And that's why it's a very, very joyous holiday. 3 times in the Torah it says the word joy. But then the joy is escalated when we come to Simchat Torah. When we actually have this intimate relationship with God, we know we were forgiven for our mistakes. We have now matured to a new level of appreciation. And we now are on the level of Baal Teshuva. So, if you want to categorize the 2 holidays of Shavuot and Simchat Torah, Shavuot is the holiday of tzaddikim. We were righteous. We were born, a convert, it says, who converts into Judaism, is like a baby that's born, a brand new child. So on Shavuot, we were taken out of Egypt, we went through conversion, we accepted the Torah, we're brand new. We had no time to sin. We're tzaddikim, all righteous. Then we sin. We tasted sin. Once you taste sin, it's much more difficult to leave from that. For example, if you smoke, you're a smoker. And now to quit smoking is much more difficult than someone who never smoked. Now it's true, you never smoked, you may want a cigarette, you have a desire for a cigarette, but it's not the same passion and same addiction than someone who actually smoked for 20 years and now has to quit. So to be a Baal Teshuva is much more difficult than to be a tzaddik. In simple terms, we call this in America FFB, Frum from birth. And then you have a BT, Baal Teshuva. So a Frum from birth, all his life, they were protected, they were sheltered, they were living in a cocoon. They didn't know the outside world. Okay, so they keep Shabbos, they keep kosher, they do all these things, they never spoke to a girl till they got married. The holy people, tzaddikim. But that's easy for them because they don't know anything else. But about Teshuva, who went into the outside world and tasted shrimp and non-kosher champagne and smoked and was on drugs and all these things, had all these amazing temptations and addictions and everything else, and now they changed their life, that person is much higher and holier than a tzaddik. Because they went through all of these challenges and they came back stronger. A tzaddik, which means an FFB, someone who is from birth, who accidentally now tastes one of these prohibitions, says, hey, I like this. This is good. How come my mother didn't tell me about this? Hey, she was hiding this from me all those years. I like this stuff. It's a great life. It's fun. You see a lot of people, God forbid, FFBs, they go off from Yiddishkeit. They start tasting these things, they can't control themselves. Because they were never challenged. They were protected, but not challenged. But about Tshuva, who all their life lived in a different domain, and now says, look, it's time to come back home. They went through these temptations, they went through these challenges, says the Rambam like this, that about Tshuva, one who returns to Yiddishkeit, stands on a place, on a pedestal higher than a tzaddik, than a righteous person. And more than that, ein tzaddikim gemurim yocholim lamed sham. A tzaddik cannot touch them with a 10-foot pole. These people are righteous of righteous, the holy of holy. Because they went through that struggle, they went through that challenge, and yet they overcame the temptation of the animal soul, of the Yetzer Hara, of the Satan, and now they are truly pristine and godly. And this is why we rejoice on Simchat Torah, because we have Meirasha Kilas Yaakov. The Torah is an inheritance. You throw it away, it comes back to you. It might miss a generation, even up to 50 years, but it's yours. And when you come back stronger. When you come back, you're more committed. When you come back, it's more real. It's not something that you were raised with. It's something that I chose, I want to do. And we're living now in a generation, you cannot tell children what to do. You cannot force them to keep Torah. You can't threaten them that if you don't do the Torah, you're not going to get ice cream anymore. They don't care. They could afford to buy their own ice cream. They have more money than you. In this generation, it can only come from love and admiration and free choice. And that's why we are now in the generation of Chag HaOsif. We are in the generation that we are now gathering in all the mitzvahs, all the exiles. And it's being done because we want it, not because we're being forced into it. And that's why the simcha, the joy, when Mashiach comes very soon, is going to be a greater joy than we ever experienced throughout our entire life. Because when we left Egypt, we were little kids. God put a mountain over our heads and said, you keep the Torah, you'll survive. If not, smashed potatoes. So till now, Judaism was out of being coerced, it was coercion. We're living in a generation now that you cannot coerce children. It has to come from within, only with love. But now we're at that stage. We're now Chag HaOsif, the time of the ingathering. Jews are coming back. There was never a time so many yeshivas. There was never a time so many Jews lived in Eretz Yisrael, in Israel. There are over 7 million Jews today. It's unbelievable. It's a time of Chag HaOsif. It's a time of Sukkot. It's a time of ingathering. Okay, Baruch Hashem, 10 million can yirbu. So the point is, we're right at the threshold of Simchas Torah. We're right at the threshold to dance with the ultimate redemption. We just got to push Mashiach over the threshold. The Rebbe once told the chief rabbi of Israel that Mashiach is standing right outside the door, right outside the threshold. You just got to pull him in. He's got to pull him in. So he's ready to come. We're ready to dance. And now we have to make a personal Chag HaOsif. We have to ingather all the good thoughts and all the mitzvahs that we did all our life and add a little more mitzvahs to those mitzvahs. And then God is going to make the ultimate Chag HaOsif. He's going to see, wow, there's so many good deeds that the Jewish people did throughout all the history, throughout 6,000 years. It's going to tip the scale of salvation. And then we're all going to dance in the streets in all the countries. One big long line coming back to Israel. Which reminds me of a story that they say when Mashiach comes, there's going to be a big line around the world. And everybody's going to be standing on that line, and they're going to want to shake hands with Mashiach. You know, this guy is a hero, Mashiach. He's famous, a movie star. I want to shake hands with him. There'll be a big line, all the countries, they'll be carrying the Torahs and the luggage, and they're coming to Israel, they want to shake Mashiach's hands. And they say the following story, that Rabbi Nachman of Kotsk, the Kotsker Rebbe said, when Mashiach comes, there'll be this big line, and everybody's going to want to shake hands with Mashiach, and I'm going to go to the end of the line. And they said to him, you, Heilige Kotzke, you are a teacher, you are a Rebbe, you're a tzaddik, you're a holy tzaddik. You should be one of the first people to greet the Mashiach. And he said, no, I'm going to go to the end of the line. And he said, why? Because Mashiach is going to shake all the people's hands from the whole world. And finally, after like days and days and days of shaking everybody's hands, he's going to come to me. And he's going to turn to me and say, Heilige Kotzke, where were you all this time? And I'm going to turn to Mashiach. And I'm going to say, Mashiach, where were you all this time?
He was on the train this morning with me.
So to wish everybody a joyous Sukkot. And remember, you have to be joyous if you want to or not. That's the mitzvah. And three times as much. You got to be joyous. And if you need a little help, you say Al Chaim, whatever it is. But this is your holiday. You have to be joyous. It's the mitochondria of joy throughout the entire year. To wish everybody a beautiful holiday, a joyous holiday, the ultimate joy. We should see the Chag HaOsif, the ultimate ingathering of Am Yisrael, the coming of Mashiach, from Hecht Rabbeinu. Amen.